The buck stops here for you. The biggest takeaways from round 3 of the AFL action. There were some extraordinary results. I'm very interested to see which way you go here. So off you go.
Well, ultimately, mate, there are so many stories, there are so many headlines out of the early stages of the year, and particularly this week. But the first one I'm going to go with is that Jacob Wiedering is the equal of Sam Walsh in terms of effect for Carlton right now, and as the number 1 pick. So he was number 1 pick in 2015.
Yep.
And in the last 10, I had a look at them. So you go Horne-Francis, I'm working backwards. Horne-Francis, Ugle-Hagan, Rowell, Walsh in 2018, Rayner, McGrath, Wiedering, McCartan, Boyd, all the way back to Whitfield. So Whitfield, I think, is a gun. So that's the last 10.
Yep.
I think Wiedering is as effective as any of those number 1 draft picks.
He gets a massive job every week. He plays on the opposition's best forward every week and rarely gets beaten.
So he won a BNF in 2020.
Yep.
You can build a team around... You build a team around key position players, both in front and behind the ball, and I think an intercept defender is who can stop a key forward is worth his weight in gold. I just think the way he's unassuming, he's been a slow burn, a slow build, but he has been consistently good in poor sides, and now he's going to stand up for a good side. I think
So they played him on Gunston on the weekend with Mitch Lewis coming off a 5-goal game the week before. What's that tell you?
Well, I think it tells you how important Gunston is.
Yeah.
But Wiedering just goes to probably the guy that they think is the most dangerous, and he defends really well, but he's just so solid. I mean, hard to beat. So
Took the big mark running back with a flight in the last 30
and
seconds.
stood up when it mattered.
Nice.
So very good. Number 2, momentum. Momentum's king. We speak about it all the time. Not just momentum in season, but momentum in games. And we just saw huge momentum swings. So the Pies, they kicked 8 goals or 9 out of 10 goals, and then the Cats kicked the last 8. In Carlton Hawthorn, Carlton kicked 9 out of 10 and in the first part of the game, and then Hawks kicked 7 of the last 8.
Yep.
So that was just like a game of, here first quarter, probably first 40 minutes, and then the rest of the game. And then we saw the Saints kick 10 in a row.
64 zip. So I'm glad you talk about this, because this is the biggest talking point for the weekend for mine.
Yep.
How does it happen, and how can you stop it?
I think when sides try to play their game style and they're that aggressive to play their game style, it just means that if you are losing contested ball, so if you have a crew that are getting done inside, it can affect the momentum absolutely. And if you can get forward, if you can move the ball forward and get even numbered contests for your forwards, and you've got a couple of forwards that feel it and are on, that's where momentum shifts. And it's a belief thing. It's flow. There are 3 mechanisms I reckon coaches and teams can use to stop momentum, and we're not seeing them as often, I think, this year so far, because I think early in the season that sides try and back themselves and leave their players to work it out. Congest stoppage. So if you're losing stoppage, you congest it. You bring a forward up, or you send a cooler to a player that's smashing you out of stoppage. There are 2 things that you can do at stoppage. In transition, the other one is you put a 7th man behind the ball. We're not seeing that as often. And when we do, the side with momentum then throw a 7th forward of the ball, so they maintain that even numbered contest and the momentum they've got. And the other one is that kick mark. Is sides just going to kick mark and try and slow the game down. Now we see that a little bit, but defensive sides or sides with momentum, when a side goes into kick mark, they've got so good at taking that away, forcing the long kick and then going back hard again.
Okay, can I add to that? Can I ask you this? I'm the observer, you're the coach in recent times. I'm looking at it and I think clubs and coaches are so wedded to what they do and have so much faith in the system that they've coached and practiced that they are reluctant to change and are slow to change.
I agree.
Have too much faith in what they're doing. They go, we've lost 3 in a row. Yeah, but I know, but we do this and that, and I've coached it all year and we're going to be okay. And in the blink of an eye now, it's 6 goals to zip.
Slow to change. I absolutely agree with that. And that is on a 1 game, you're talking about a 1 game cycle.
Well, I'm just talking when I'm watching footy on
Yeah.
the weekend and I'm going,
Yep.
do something.
Yep.
Change it up somewhere. But they go, no, this is us. This is what we do.
No, but in a long enough timeline, it's always better to know who you are, how you go about it, and that's not to say you're one-dimensional, because there are nuances in how you play. But yes, if you practice the way that you want to be, you're more likely to have success in the long term, in my opinion.
Our coach is too pig-headed, I guess, is what I'm saying.
What they are is they have a longer timeline, and this is a philosophical argument. You have a longer timeline than just the one performance.
Sure, but when
you're
it's
trying to-
unfolding in front of you like it has been this year, then do you not need to be more nimble and be prepared to throw things around?
No, but the coaches will make changes. They will make slight adjustments. They don't always work.
64 zip, 9 goals. There mustn't have been many adjustments.
Well, that happened real quick. I saw part of that. I didn't see all of it. I saw part of it. When you've got a Max King who can take contested marks the way that he can, but he still needs to be supply. So they were just getting smashed inside. You could empty out your forward line altogether and congest stoppage absolutely and have no one in front of the ball. But that's not going to get you any better than you just with your backs against the ropes and sort of fending off the King hits. So you've still got to play a balanced style as much as you possibly can.
3.
Third one, West Coast are crippled. I mean, I know that's not a big a big statement, but I think the greatest impact on performance for a team is belief. And the greatest impact on belief is personnel. One, like the guys you look around and you go, well, we've got the goods here. We've got enough talent in the backs. We've got enough ball winning in the middle. We've got goal scoring forward. We've got enough here to win a game of footy.
Mm-hmm.
So personnel is key. And the second thing, if you don't have personnel, you want continuity. West Coast have had to shuffle their side. They've had to change it. Like I'm not even got the same back six. If you look at it, you don't even have the same midfield. So they've had absolutely no chance
So
to
no
build
surprises in the
belief.
results.
No surprise, and they, I mean, there's excuses galore there, and I think that they've just been absolutely crippled. They've got no chance of building any momentum or anything to build off at all. And I've got no idea where that's going to come from for them. They need to settle their personnel first and foremost, and get some continuity in their team to be able to find out where they're going to go for the rest of the year. 4, good teams win ugly. The Melbourne performance was not one of their best, but they grounded out and they found a way.
Yep.
And then you go and watch the Gold Coast game against GWS, and GWS needed that win and needed that performance. But when Gold Coast aren't a 9 out of 10 intensity,
Yep.
they just drop too far away. Their bad performances are too far away from their good ones.
Yep.
And that wasn't just about losing the game; it was how they lost. They weren't even close to their best, and that's the difference between the teams that keep the 4 points ticking over and the ones that don't. And I'm going back to Carlton for my 5th. They must have been playing Jack in the Pack all pre-season. You look at that first quarter and they're kicking long, and really their MO is really simple: defend strongly, and bounce off the back. When we win stoppage and get the ball to 20 metres out from goal, so that Curnow, McKay, De Koning, Cripps himself can get down there. Pitney as the ruckman get forward. Silvani was popping up. They took 6 contested marks in the first quarter, and it looked like there wasn't as if there wasn't competition around. It wasn't as if there wasn't contest. It looks like they've just been kicking it to packs. I mean, Robert Walls at Brisbane used to encourage us: 15 guys at one end, 15 guys at the other, 3 or 4 balls. Go for hangers, and you get used to being around bigger groups of blokes all trying to take a mark.
So you've got De Koning, you've got McKay, you've got Curnow, and you've got Silvani. Well, you should.
And Cripps, who gets
And
down
Cripps.
there, and Tom Mitchell was running with him at times, or Warper was running with him at times, and he's got a 1.5 foot on him, so he was taking them forward and taking marks. They looked unbeatable in the first quarter.
I think I just reckon when Curnow catches fire like that and you've got Granger Brass on him, who's a great kid and going to be a really good player, I just reckon for that 10 minutes, Sicily just has to say to Granger Brass, here, go and take him. Let me just, for 10 minutes until we get to quarter time, I'll take the hot hand here.
But even Jarth and Sicily, they couldn't get across. As third man over, they couldn't get across, because when you've got 3 or 4 marking targets,
Yep.
and the benefit of what Carlton are doing is they're kicking it up. They're saying, look, we don't have to mark at all, but we've got marking players there. But when the ball hits the ground,
Yep.
That's where our smalls come into play as well. Fisher, Owies, etc. Durden, who's standing up and doing really well. Like these guys, it's predictable. It's predictable footy, and it's simple and it's easy to scout, but hard to stop.
Here's one for you. Just we don't have to have the sting for me to ask you this. The booing of Joel Selwood on the weekend, given that you've had things to say about this in the past, what did you make of it?
No, unacceptable. Don't like it. Don't like it at all. I think that I understand the emotions that that come with following your team and witnessing a great contest before your eyes, and there is a cathartic effect of going to the footy where we release those emotions, anger, stress, etc., and we get emotionally involved. I think cheer as loud as you want, hoot and holler as loud as you like, but I just think booing or denigrating someone is just not something that needs to happen. That doesn't mean that I don't understand it, but I just don't like it.
You got booed a lot.
Yeah, I did. And maybe that's why I have the whole this opinion.
It's a badge of honour.
I got booed by the Collingwood crowd at times.
No, you didn't. That's a badge of honour. It's because people rated you. You're a superstar of the game. For whatever, that people that didn't know you probably looked at you and thought you were a bit arrogant and all that sort of stuff. So what?
Yeah, no, I understand all that, but I just, I when I hear it, I don't like it. If I'm sitting in a crowd or I'm sitting in an environment and I see it, I just think, well, it's disrespectful. I mean, it's
yeah.
But that's my opinion.
Did it worry you as a player?
Because remember a couple of years ago,
yes, you did.
I chipped the Essendon crowd or the crowd full stop about
booing
Pendle's getting booed, and I said after that I hope that I would have been strong enough to have that opinion if it was the other way around, and I do. I just don't like it. It's not something that.
Did it affect you as a player?
Probably early days when I was a young man, you definitely feel the energy come over the fence, don't you? And that's half of the reason why it's so great to be a player in front of a crowd at the top level in big games against good opposition. When you're going well, there's nothing better. So you do feel the energy, and early days before you've got a really good sense of yourself, you can be affected by what others think of you, and the booing is definitely part of the challenge of being able to stand up in the big stage.